welcome back to the podcast.
We're back again. It's been a while.
It has. We did say we weren't going to be gone for that long again, but you were at the College World Series, which, by the way, how was that?
College World Series was spectacular, although I did feel like it was on the edge of hell with how hot it was. But it was excellent time, excellent baseball. No complaints about the College World Series ever. So, and then we've had all kinds of other things going on.
Mm-hmm. The 4th of July weekend.
4th of July,
which was a blast.
Literally blew up a ton of fireworks. So, yeah. But we're back. We've got a lot to talk about. But before we jump into our handful of topics, I do want to throw out, and I failed to mention this on the last podcast, my boy, the one and only Mustache Man, Drew Timme, announced he's coming back for his senior year of college. So we, as a society, as a country, can come together and enjoy one final season of the Mustache Man. And you know what that means?
Oh no. The mustache is coming back.
The mustache is coming back. So for the NCAA tournament, I will be growing the Drew Timme mustache.
For what? The 4th time?
As long as he is in the tournament, that mustache will grow. And it is glorious. I gotta say, last year's was glorious.
It was something.
If his team had not have let him down and choked, and they would have made it to the final weekend, that mustache would have been top notch. May have never cut it because it looked so good. But we'll have to start back from square one come next March. So shout out to my boy Drew Timme. Appreciate you coming back.
All right, so you know what time it is, right? It's time to talk about Mr. Hot Garbage himself.
Oh, Baker.
He was traded to the Panthers for a 5th round pick, and the Browns are paying $10 million of his salary. That is a dumb trade.
No, it's a trade they had to make.
They had to make it, but it was for, I feel like, the least amount of, I don't even know what to call it. You got him for the least amount you could have, and it's really good for the Panthers because they don't really have to gamble on him. They really got him for free-ish.
Well, that just confirms how big of a headache that guy was and how much they had and needed. I guess it's the same thing. Yeah. But how much they needed to get rid of him. When you pay another team essentially $10 million to take him off of your hands, that's very telling to me. And so good luck to Baker in Carolina. I think it's great news for the Browns. However, I will guarantee you this. You watch. So the interesting part is, did you know the Browns and the Panthers play week 1?
Oh.
So Baker gets to play against the Browns at week 1, which will be a great news story.
Revenge game.
But here's what's going to happen. And mark it down. July 8th, 2022. Guarantee. After week 2 or 3, you're going to have Browns fans that are whining and crying because they want Baker back, and it was a bad decision to let him go and to sign Deshaun Watson, because Baker could start the year off fairly well and put up some decent numbers. The first week is the Browns, and you just said it's a revenge game. I don't think he will. I think the Browns are going to mud stomp him into the ground because they dislike him so much. But let's say Baker does the most Baker thing ever, which is put up tremendous numbers because in his mind it's a revenge game. Week 2 for Carolina is the Giants. The Giants are horrid. So Baker could put up really good numbers there. And then what's going to happen is Baker's going to start the year off well, and the Browns, and we'll get to this in a minute, probably aren't going to have Deshaun Watson and they may struggle. And you're going to have all these Browns fans saying, oh, we never should have gotten rid of Baker, whining and crying. But after that, the Carolina schedule is brutal. I think they play the Rams and
we know they
New
play
Orleans and the Buccaneers in Denver. They've got a really tough schedule, and Baker's going to struggle this year with Carolina. And so, but mark it down. We'll get to hear all the Browns fans whine and cry. And here's why I disagree with you now, Browns fans, and I'll disagree with you after week 2 when you're whining and crying. Let's say they didn't sign Deshaun. Let's say Baker was the Browns quarterback this year and put up just average numbers. Let's say Baker puts up average numbers. The Browns win the division, which is very likely if Baker was quarterback. Let's say Baker wins a playoff game or 2. That's a pretty good year. But then guess what? Guess whose contract is up at the end of the year? Baker. So Baker did all of that. Wins 10 or 11 games, wins the division, wins a playoff game or 2. Guess who's going to want a ton of money? Baker. At that point, then the Browns are stuck because the quarterback rate right now is 5-6 years, $30 million a year. As a Browns fan, do you really want to give that guy that kind of money to continue to be your quarterback? But if he led them to that type of season, they're almost forced to. So as bad as it looks right now short term for the Browns fans with the whole Deshaun Watson mess, getting rid of Baker is the best case scenario if you're a Browns fan. Push that head case over to the Panthers and let them deal with him and see what happens.
But what I am wondering is, we know that the Seahawks and Panthers were both interested. But what I am wondering is, how did either team make that trade request 3 months ago, 2 months ago, 1 month ago?
Well, I believe Carolina and the Browns have been talking for a while. They just couldn't come to an agreement on the draft pick or the amount of salary that Carolina was going to have to pay. I mean, again, this is Baker's last year of his contract. Why do you want to pay a guy $18 million to come be your quarterback when you could potentially lose him next year? It doesn't make sense for those teams to give up anything of value to get Baker. The Browns were stuck. The Browns had to get rid of him. They had no leverage, and other teams knew that. So that's where they're lucky to get a 5th round pick for him, but it's going to cost them $10 million. But again, at the end of the day, it's still the best case scenario for the Browns.
The one thing also, do the Browns know Deshaun is not getting suspended?
I don't think anybody knows at this point in time. I mean, he's still going through his hearings with the NFL. I would think that just from a perception standpoint, he's got to get some type of a suspension. If I had to guess, I'm going to say 6 to 8 games. It could be the whole year. It could be 2 games. I don't think anybody knows right now, but if I had to guess, I would say 6 to 8 games. Which, again, who's their backup? Jacoby Brissett?
Yeah.
So
who is, he's something that is not good.
I mean, but again, back to Baker, that to me is very telling that bridge is already burned. They couldn't save that. In even the fact that Deshaun may get suspended for a significant period of time, they wanted no part of Baker Mayfield to help lead that team. And it's a very good team. I mean, if they get just average quarterback play from anybody, they're probably going to make the playoffs and potentially win that division. And if Deshaun Watson were to play the entire year, I think that's a very good team that, potentially borderline Super Bowl team. And so we'll find out. I think we'll find out here over the next couple of weeks what happens with Deshaun. But I would think he has to get some type of a suspension.
I mean, I agree. I don't think it's not possible for him to get even a week suspension.
Oh, it's going to be. I mean, I think when Ben Roethlisberger was going through some of his legal issues, I think he got 6 games. We just saw Alvin Kamara got what?
He got 6 too.
He got 6 or 8.
I don't know if he got officially suspended yet, but that's the prediction: 6 to above games.
Yeah, we can get into a debate about whether or not Deshaun should get suspended or not. I mean, he technically hasn't been found guilty of anything. Now, that's not to say that the dude didn't do anything wrong. I mean, when 24 people come out and allege essentially the same claim, where there's smoke, there's fire. So I'm quite positive that there's something not right with that situation, and he probably did something inappropriate, but he technically hasn't been found guilty of anything. And so the NFL has the ability and in the right to suspend people even when they've not been found guilty of committing a crime. You can argue whether that's right or wrong, but at the end of the day, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It's pretty much jail time for Deshaun. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get jail time. I'm just saying the NFL suspension is like jail time.
Well, because he's not going to make money. If he gets suspended, it's without pay. And then the question becomes, what kind of language did they put in the contract? Can they get out of it? If, let's say Deshaun got suspended for the whole year, would the Browns terminate the contract and look elsewhere? Or do they stand by that $240 million guaranteed contract and hope he comes back next year and plays? That's a tough decision. I don't know what you do.
I think you wait. I don't think you can. Of course, you can't make a decision right now, but I think that you have to wait and just see how the year goes, and if he does get suspended, for how long he gets suspended, and make the decision from there. I think that is the smartest thing the Browns can do, but the Browns are really dumb, and they might not do that. They'll probably do something very risky and absolutely destroy the entire year.
Listen, one thing's guaranteed. The Browns will pull a Browns. They will do something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That doesn't make sense because that's what the Browns do. So we'll find out here, again, over the next couple weeks, and we'll have some clarity on what the Brown season looks like. So, but I will say, I'll stop talking about Baker until after week 2 or 3 when everyone's raving about him, and then I'll get angry and we'll have to bring Baker up again. But
all right, that's it for hot garbage. Now
it is. We're done. We are done with hot garbage starting now.
The Big Ten.
Oh, the Big Ten
is not even close to the Big Ten anymore.
It's the Big 16 at this point. That news came out of nowhere. I mean, literally nowhere. Had zero indication that they were looking to bring USC and UCLA into the Big Ten. Happened late last week. And I'll tell you what, you got your traditionalists out there who don't like it. I think it's great. I think it's the direction that college football is going, and it's great that the Big Ten got ahead of it and got the teams they wanted for the conference rather than trying to be reactionary and waiting until the SEC gobbles up, whoever they want. So kudos to the Big Ten. I'm not going to give Kevin Warren kudos for that because I don't think he has the ability to be that forward thinking. So whoever else in the Big Ten came up with that idea and made it happen, congratulations to you. But I think it's going to be great for the Big Ten. You're adding two traditional football powerhouses. They've got some play when it comes to college basketball, all the Olympic sports that they're in. That women's softball, UCLA is good every year. College baseball, UCLA is good every year. So they're bringing a lot to the conference. I just don't think the Big Ten is done yet. I think the elephant in the room is still Notre Dame. I think at this point, Notre Dame has to join a conference somewhere. It's not going to be the ACC because I think the ACC is on life support. You keep reading that the SEC might go steal some teams and bring them into the SEC. I don't think Notre Dame's looking at that as an option. Notre Dame is very stubborn that they want to remain independent and have that status. But at some point in time, money talks. And right now, I think Notre Dame their TV contract is $20 to $30 million a year. But with the new TV contract coming to the Big Ten, they're projecting every Big Ten team is going to make at least $100 million a year. So
just for being on TV, just for being in the conference.
TV rights, just to be in the conference. So a Rutgers will make $100 million a year.
And the Rutgers suck.
A Northwestern will make $100 million a year. And you all can thank Ohio State for that, by the way. But money talks at some point. And I'm hard-pressed to believe that Notre Dame is going to continue to be okay with $20 to $30 million a year when all they have to do is go join the Big Ten and they can immediately make $100 million a year. That's a lot of money to leave on the table just because you want to maintain your independence and not join a conference. So I think it's just a matter of time that before Notre Dame joins the Big Ten. And then that would give them 17. They're not going to stop there. You don't want an odd number of teams. So who else is in play? Do you go out and raid the Pac-12 for more teams? An Oregon, a Stanford, Washington, whomever? Do you go to the ACC and bring in teams? Something's going to happen here shortly. I think the Big Ten eventually gets to 18 to 20 teams. And then I think the SEC counters that and brings in teams from somewhere. And within 5 years, you're going to see it's going to be the SEC, the Big Ten, and then everybody else. We're essentially getting to that point already. So, but again, back to USC, UCLA, I think it's a great move for Ohio State. It brings in the LA TV market. I think now they have, I can't remember what I saw, like 7 out of the top 10 TV markets are now in the Big Ten because you've got the New York market, you've got Chicago, now you've got LA. So, the Big Ten is just growing by leaps and bounds. And it's going to be interesting when USC and UCLA come in. They're going to have to restructure the division somehow, some way. So, what does that look like here down the road? But I'm projecting Notre Dame will be in the conference within the next 2 to 3 years.
I think if they do get to 17, Notre Dame comes along because they have the opportunity to. And like you were saying, it's really about money. They, $100 million a year for just being on TV.
That's right. And they're going to have to join a conference at some point in time. And really, there's not a lot of options. It's the Big Ten or the SEC. They're not going to go join the Big 12. They're not going to go to the Pac-12 because the Pac-12 may not even exist. Again, they're not going to the ACC because I don't know what's happening with that conference. So you join the Big Ten, which is a natural fit, or you go down to the SEC. And I don't think they want any part of the SEC because talking about mud stomped again, that's not a good landing spot for them. They have a natural fit in terms of geography with the Big Ten, in terms of the types of schools that are in the Big Ten. They should have joined the Big Ten 20 years ago, and they were being stubborn because they wanted to maintain their independence. But at some point in time, again, money talks, and they're going to have to join the conference. And I don't see where else they go but the Big Ten. But I think that'll be an interesting story throughout the summer. Do we see more consolidation or movement of teams in the conferences, and what does it look like? It's the progression of college football. You can like it, you can not, but it is what it is. You're gonna have to accept it.
It's evolving.
That's a great word, evolving.
College football is, changes happen all the time, but I think big changes are coming, and a big evolution, I guess, is coming to college football.
Another big word, evolution and evolving. Did you read the e-encyclopedia today?
No, I read about dinosaurs and how they evolve.
Huh.
Not actually. But I think that's going to be it for the podcast.
Good podcast. Good to be back. We're getting into middle of July. We're going to have to start talking about college football predictions, NFL predictions. I think NFL training camps open up here soon.
Yeah, a bunch of sports are over. Hockey's over. Basketball's over. Baseball's still,
Baseball's moving along. All-Star games next week. But we'll have to start thinking about our predictions for football and talk about that on the upcoming podcast. So,
all right, that's gonna be it.
Talk to y'all later.